Welcome to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs in your Giants podcast. I am Drew. Unfortunately, not joined today by Rob. It means you guys get a double dose of the Drew here. So I would say do the Drew like a Mountain Dew thing, but it kind of sounded a little weird. So, but yeah, guys, we got a lot of news to go over with you today. We have all the top 10 wide receivers in this upcoming draft here. Some interesting names to go over. This is not like it's been the last couple of years, guys. I feel like there's been a string of years together where there's like 20 some odd receivers that we really feel the need to talk about here, and the guys that are like, day one, day two receivers like that. This is not going to be that draft. This is going to be the draft of running backs, defensive tackles, and other strong groups. It's not a horrible draft, not a very top heavy, but not a horrible draft overall. The wide receiver group is one that definitely leaves something to be desired. Like, if you need a wide receiver, you are desperate for a wide receiver, you probably wanted to pick one up in free agency. There's some guys out there that produce, don't get me wrong. But it's not like it's been in the last couple of years where it's just overflowing with talent. You go, oh my God, I get this guy, that guy, this guy. You're running like 5 wide receivers in a row. I don't see that being the case this year. But again, that doesn't mean there's not interesting, guys to pick up. And we have, in this list, we have potentially the best college football player of the last year. The guy literally won the Heisman. We're gonna of course talk about Travis Hunter as a wide receiver specifically. We're gonna talk about, is he number one or not? Spoiler alert: no, he's not. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of nice things to talk about here. So let's break it down here for you. Number one wide receiver here in this upcoming draft. A guy that probably won't shock y'all because I kind of ruined the spoiler alert that I said Travis Hunter's not number one. There's really 2 guys that most people have one. The one we have, I feel like it's the less common. But Tetairoa McMillan, also called T-Mac, also called by some people just Tet, out of Arizona. Guys, 6'5". That's insane, dude. Like that's so tall for a wide receiver. It's not even funny. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Talk about a big advantage right there by having that abilities, But then on top of it, the fact that he's not also a skinny kid either. He's got height, he's got weight, he's got size. That's something you can't teach point blank. It's like, you look at some of these players out there that become really like tall, lanky players. Talked a lot about later wide receivers coming out the last couple of years there. He's 212 pounds, guys. Don't get me wrong, that's not DK Metcalf by any means, but he's got the height of him. This is a big wide receiver in comparison to what you've seen the last couple of years there. 22 years old, well, so 21 actually technically right now, but as of the 5th here, so less than a week, he'll be 22 years old. Originally from Hawaii, did play at Servite High School in Anaheim, California, where he was named the Polynesian High School Football Player of the Year back in 21. First year of school back in 22, 702 yards, 8 touchdowns. 23, 1,402 yards, 10 touchdowns, second team all Pac-12. This past season, 24, 12 games, 84 catches, 1,319 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 84.8 PFF grade, guys. Polynesian Football Player of the Year, consensus All-American, first team All Big 12, and absolutely massive size, like I said, for a wide receiver compared to what we've seen the last couple of years coming out. Really long arms, big hands, a lot of the stuff that, quite frankly, you just can't teach. He's a jump ball threat. He's got a high football IQ. What he doesn't have top end speed. He does also have a little bit of a slow release from the line, which is one thing that I think is definitely coachable. I can't teach someone to have top end speed that doesn't have it. You either got speed or you don't got speed. Can you help a little bit? Yeah, but you're not going to get a guy who's a more of a possession type of receiver to all of a sudden be a home run threat receiver. It's just not who they are. you can help with the release in the line. And that's what I think it's going to take to make him an elite receiver in this league here. As of right now, I wouldn't say he's an elite prospect. I don't think there's a single elite wide receiver prospect in this draft, to be clear. This is the closest you got to it. But what he is he's going to be a big receiver that I think is the guy that has the potential to be 1,000-yard receiver in this league if he can help get that release off the line quicker, if he can go ahead and just do a little bit there to tweak his game a little bit there. I do think he's going to add a little tricks as far as a wide receiver route tree there. I think that does need to get added as well. But he's got that ability, very high, like I said, football IQ. He wins point blank off his route running, off his moves, off with the slight shifts he gives. This is that guy. And I love it when a guy wins off of that, because you know what? A lot of these guys that you see coming out that are top-end athletes, they lose a little bit over time. You know, injuries, that kind of stuff, they lose a little bit. You don't lose that when you're, quite frankly, there because of your mental toughness, because of your ability, because of your intelligence on the field. So he's got the potential to have a nice long career. And, you know, I think probably the best, and I hate giving comps out, but I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a comp on here. And don't get me wrong, he's not the same player. Let me be very clear on that before I even say this name. He is not the same player by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm going to say he's a taller version of an Anquan Bolden. That's what I see him being in this league. You know, and hell, I think if you tell a player right now you're going to sign up for that kind of career, I think all day long. But, you know, Bolden was that guy. I mean, a couple of really great years, the first 2 out of 3 years, obviously, in the league, where he was kind of elite kind of player. But most of his career was about 800 to 1,000-yard receiver. That's what I think McMillan's going to be. That's what I think T-Mac's going to be. And that's not bad. Not everybody you pick in this draft has to go ahead and be a 1,300-yard receiver in the league. Most aren't. You know, most people you pick up in the draft are not going to do that ever for you. But if you can be a consistent 1,000-yard threat, damn good career you're going to have. And that's what I feel like he's going to be. And I do think he's going to go very early on in this draft, because he is, like I said, the hands down best wide receiver in this draft. And I think he's going to be a top 10 to 15 pick. Now, he may not be able to play corner like somebody else we're talking about in a little bit here. But from a purely wide receiver standpoint, he's the best. And a lot of it is, unfortunately for Hunter, who we'll talk about in a little bit here, is number 2 for us. A lot of it is his size. You can't teach that. You got that or you don't got that. You know, good luck trying to play press man coverage against this guy. Good luck playing for a jump ball in the end zone with this guy. It's going to be very difficult to do. And like I said, I think he's going to be a serious threat if somebody uses him right, sets him up right, schemes him right, realizes what he does well, and takes full advantage of that. And, you know, we'll see if that's going to be there, guys. Because unfortunately, again, top 10, top 15 pick, that means you're going to one of the teams in the second half as far as ability-wise and potential-wise there. But, you know, in the end, you're not going top 5. You're going somebody who basically was just below average last year, potentially. So I think he's hoping to go to a scenario that has a good quarterback, has a veteran wide receiver that can teach him some of the stuff. Like I said, getting that release off the line is the big one for me. And he definitely has some ability to do something special here in this league. So, like I said, that's number 1, T-Mac here for us. Number 2, the aforementioned Travis Hunter. I got to put wide receiver Travis Hunter on this as well, because, again, this is the kid that plays both sides of the field. Wide receiver, cornerback, you know, the perfect teammate for Jameis Winston here. But this is a guy the Giants may very well pick up, guys. This is a guy that very well could. Now, I do think he's going to be a better receiver than he is a corner. And there's a lot of people that are back and forth in this. And listen, we'll get into him as a corner when we talk about corners. We will definitely not avoid that. We will definitely talk about that. But I want to talk about him strictly as a wide receiver. Obviously went to Colorado, 6 foot even, 188 pounds, originally from West Palm Beach, Florida. Went to high school in Swanee, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta area there, just north of there. At Jackson State, his first year in college in 2023, 721 yards. Not a bad start. 721 yards, 5 touchdowns. Not a bad start at all to his career. Obviously he, like a certain Shador Sanders, who we keep talking about like crazy here in this draft time period here. He went ahead and went with Deion Sanders to Colorado. His very first year at Colorado, same stats, 721 yards, 5 touchdowns. This past year, 13 games, 96 catches, 1,258 yards, and 15 touchdowns. That's a hell of a season right there. Now, keep in mind, again, Heisman Trophy winner, Walter Camp Award, AP College Football Player of the Year, SN College Football Player of the Year, the Fred Blindikoff Award winner, unanimous All-American. I can go on and on the accolades this kid has. And by all accounts, by the way, I should say also, one of the nicest people in football you ever hear. Some people say he's too nice. That's I don't get into that part of it there. I care about how you play in the field, not as much if you're too nice. You can have killer instinct in the field and be nice off the field. I hate when people talk about that kind of stuff. What I think my biggest issue for him really, though, is that size. 188 pounds. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of people that have played that weight and have made themselves a decent career. I don't think that's going to allow him to be an amazing player, though. Now, what he is, though, got big hands, got great speed, good for yak, but he's got that thin frame, and he has trouble playing through contact. And I think if he's a kid that's going to go ahead and go off, and you're going to put him out there in the field as somebody who's going to be your top flight receiver, they're going to double cover him, press cover him all day long. And he's going to have trouble beating that because of his size. And there are people that get away with that. Don't get me wrong. Steve Smith comes to mind. One of the smallest, wide receivers ever to play the game, basically, guys. At 5'9", but even he was 195 pounds. And there's guys nowadays. Tank Dell comes to mind. Devonta Smith comes to mind. There are smaller guys now, but there's exceptions to the rules. Can I sit there and say Travis Hunter is going to be an exception to the rule at that size? Can I say that with the schedule that Colorado football played? I got to question that as part of it. McMillan didn't exactly play the top 10 talent like crazy this year either. But I saw 2 years of him having success. I saw one amazing year from Hunter. Some success before that, but one really amazing year. And Colorado just didn't play anybody. I have a lot of trouble giving a guy top flight credentials and saying he's going to be a great prospect, an amazing player, because they didn't play anybody decent like that. Now, can I sit there and say he's going to be a bust? No, of course not. I think he's going to be really good. I like when I see him play. I think he actually was a big part of Sanders' success, not to take away from Sanders in that respect, but I think the two of them worked very well together. Hunter was a guy that definitely ran some great routes, got a lot of yards after the catch there, which, again, helped the Colorado offense and helped, Shador Sanders look even better at that point there. But I can't sit there and say that he's going to be dominant as a wide receiver in this league. I think the biggest reason why he is so popular is because of the fact that he is a guy who plays that corner position as well. Maybe you can put him in, nickel slot coverage and that kind of stuff. There's some people who think he's a better corner than a wide receiver. But talking about him strictly as a wide receiver, I think he's a guy that probably projects as like a number 2 receiver. And like I said, the issue is going to be the weight. It's going to be the size. I just feel like that's where he's at. Going to be a good player, going to contribute this league. I have no doubt in that one. But I don't think Travis Hunter's elite personally. I really don't. He'll be a top 5 pick in this draft, that's for sure. He's going to be drafted as if he's going to be elite. So he's going to have some big shoes to fill there. Unfortunately, I just don't think he can fill them. But I wish the best of luck again. By all accounts, great kid. Absolute great kid. And like I said, either way, he will definitely be in the league for quite some time. All right. Let's get to number 3, guys. Because we got a player that I feel like has been underrated point blank in this draft. And I'm going to tell you right now, the guy who I have ranked number 3 is going to be drafted after the guy I have ranked number 4. Maybe I'm too bullish on him. Maybe I am. And that's Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. A guy you've been seeing on the field for years, guys. I feel like he's been in college for 10 years, but no, he hasn't been. He's just been a guy that's been around for a few years now. And what the problem is with him is whenever you see him play, besides really this year, you see the guy who's not the number 1 target. Number 2 target, number 3 target, number 4 target. That's where he's been his career. Any other school, you would sit there and say, "What the hell? He can't make the top, starting lineup." Ohio State, you don't say that because look at the players he's played with. Look at the wide receivers coming out of Ohio State. That's got to matter when you look at that. Like him having trouble climbing the ranks of the depth chart. He's not going to be the next Jackson Smith-Njigba. Like that's not where he's going to be. Let me be very clear on that right now. This kid's going to be a good slot receiver in this league. That's where he's going to be. If you need a dependable slot receiver, this is a guy you get that can come in day one, and contribute to your team here. So, again, at Ohio State, 6'1", 205 pounds, 22 years old, from Tacoma, Washington. First year in 21, 191 yards. 22, 1,151 yards, 10 touchdowns, second team All Big Ten. 23, 515 yards, 4 touchdowns, third team All Big Ten. This past year in 24, 16 games, 81 catches, 1,011 yards, 10 touchdowns, 79.5 PFF grade, third team All Big Ten. I'm telling you guys, this is the wide receiver that people are not looking at enough. Point blank, and I think some of it is because he gets overlooked because of all the great names that have come out of Ohio State in the last couple of years. I think some of it's because of the slot position. Like if you don't need a slot receiver, you don't want him. This is where he plays best, is the slot. If you need a slot receiver, you better be wanting this guy. Because if not, you're not evaluating talent right, point blank. He's also the all-time career receptions leader at Ohio State. Think about all the great wide receivers that came out of Ohio State. He is the all-time career receptions leader. That's big time right there, guys. He's well polished. He's going to provide help immediately. He's great in tight coverage. He creates separation with his route running. I love scrappy guys that can create separation like that. He does have a low catch radius, meaning his hands and his arms aren't as long play-wise. I'm not even talking measure-wise. I'm saying it's watching him on film, not as long as you want it to be. He's not the guy who's going to win jump balls. He's not the one who's going to go ahead and give you 1 inch taller at that point than the guy covering him at that point to get that ball. That's not who he is. He also won a lot due to experience later on in his career. And that's one thing that kind of scares me a little bit. Because sometimes what will happen is guys will pick something up in college that works on a regular basis. That's what happens. But when then you get to the NFL, that doesn't work anymore. So I'm not going to sit there and say that he won't have a little bit of bumps when I say he's immediately ready. But I do think some of why he won so well is because he's been around for a few years now. He's gotten some good tricks there to use on these corners. And I'm just hoping they go ahead and carry over for him. I think he will be a day 2 pick. Again, I don't think he's going to be a first round kind of guy. I do think that somebody who gets him, though, is going to get a good, dependable wide receiver that's going to have a nice longer career. Knock on wood, injuries, notwithstanding that. I can't predict that part there. But yeah, he's going to be a good player for a long time. So, all right, let's get to number 4 here, guys. Number 4, we're just rolling along here. We got Matthew Golden out of Texas. Now, if you're the guy who loves to go on and say, you know what? Look at the tape. This guy's production wasn't there numbers wise. Look at the tape. This is probably your guy. Because on film, you see moves, you see him getting open, you see things that you like to see on a wide receiver's tape. but you don't see the catches, the yards, and all that kind of stuff to go along with it like you like to see. For one, ranked as high as this guy is. Some people will tell you he's the third best wide receiver in this draft. Like that's how well liked he is by a lot of people. I'm gonna put him a little lower at 4. I do like what I see on tape, and I'm not usually one that says that. Usually I'm the guy who says I want production on the field, but his tape is really good. He's really, really scrappy. Again, he's a little smaller. That's another thing we got to deal with there, but he's a really scrappy guy that I think is going to have a nice career here. 6 foot even, 195 pounds, 21 years old, from Houston, Texas. Started off at Houston, actually. In 22, 584 yards, 7 touchdowns. 23, 440 yards, 6 touchdowns. A second team All Big 12. Then goes to Texas this past year and improves. You don't go usually from Houston moving all the way up to the, to Texas and getting better. That's what he did. 16 games, 58 catches, 987 yards, 9 touchdowns, and a 74.0 PFF grade. Now, what he's got going for him is great acceleration, great speed overall. He's got good route running as well. He tracks the ball well. The yak is there. All good things you want to see. All good things you want to see. What you don't want to see is he does have some drop issues. He also does have trouble with some bigger corners. Again, he's 6 foot 195. He's a little undersized, and I think that's where a lot of that is. He has trouble getting off press. He has trouble in jump ball scenarios. He has trouble with physical corners that will go up for the ball at that point. These are things that I feel like can be fixed, though, because I watched the tape, and like I said, it's like prototypical some of the stuff he does. And if you're somebody who has a good wide receivers coach, a good strength and training coach, and you think you can get him to put a couple pounds on without sacrificing speed, this kid could be something special. But he's a boomer bust, and that's the problem I have with him, why I can't put him number 3. And I had to put a Mecca there. Because Golden's this guy that I feel like he's going to be either really good or really bad. So if you want the boomer bust, this is your guy. Because some people like that, because sometimes you need a boom. And you just hope not to get the bust. I think he's going to be a late first-round pick. And like I said, I think you're going to see probably a little slow start to his career. He's not a guy that's going to take off week 1. I really don't think that. I think you'll see something probably by the end of the first year. And the second year is when you're going to really know what you got in Golden. And like I said, I think he's got that potential there, that's for sure. So best of luck to him. All right, next up, Luther Burden the Third. I want to say Esquire after wire. It just seems like it needed Esquire there. Out of Missouri, 5'11", 208 pounds, 21 years old, from St. Louis. In 22, 375 yards, 6 touchdowns. In 23, 1,212 yards and 9 touchdowns. Beast of a season. And I'm telling you right now, I watched that year along with this past year. If he was the 23 version, we'd probably be talking about him as a first-round pick. That's how good he looked that 23 year. Now 24, though, 12 games, 61 catches, 676 yards, 6 touchdowns, and a 77.9 PFF grade. He was first team All SEC the last 2 seasons. But like I said, he was really dominant in 23, not dominant really in 24. He's hard to tackle. He's strong. He's explosive. He tracks the ball well. But he has some concentration drop. Wow. He also needs more experience on the outside. Like if you want somebody who can play outside, inside, he's not going to be able to do that as of right now. He's going to need more time and more abilities to work on the outside. He's primarily a slot receiver there. But the big thing is, looking at his 23 tape to his 24 tape, the biggest thing was how open he was able to get in 23. I'm telling you right now, somebody figured out what he was doing and then shared it with the rest of the class. That's the scenario we had here. Like somebody knew, okay, watch this, he does this and he does that. Somebody figured that out. I'm telling you right now. Because he was much more tightly covered in 24 than he was in 23. And it's not like all of a sudden, this 24 season started. So, okay, guys, we got to change up our plan from last year. We really got to cover this kid. Like once a guy starts dominating mid game, even you change your stance and change how you cover him. Burden couldn't get past the corners nearly as well as he did last season. And I think if you're going to be interested in him, you really got to stare at that tape much more longer than to be very frank, than I have time to look at. I got a job outside of this as well. But if you're an NFL team looking at him and you can figure out what his tell was, or you can talk to some coaches and find out what his tell was, and you can fix it. Like I said, you saw something special in 23. You really saw something special in 23. And I'm hoping for his sake that somebody figures out for him, because he's got that potential to be something special in this league here. Potential if he can go back to what he was in 23. But that's a big if. That's a big if that we just don't know what's going to happen there. And I can't sit there and guarantee that's what's going to happen. So, best luck to the kid here, but it's a gamble of a pick here. Another boomer bust type of kid here. So, all right, let's pay the bills real quick, and then we're going to go onto our second half here, go through receivers 6 through 10 here, guys. Let's go.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
All right. And of course, you can always go ahead and support the show also with a super chat on YouTube. You can do stars on Facebook as well, or the freeway. You can just go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share button, tell a friend about the show, because point blank, we suck at marketing. We count on you all to come and help us out there and tell people all about us. So, all right, let's get into the comments here real quick before we go into the rest. And Jay here says, the little guys drafted high never seem to pan out. I don't disagree. I got to say, I was impressed with Tank Dell, what he did his rookie year especially. I did not expect him to do anything at the size he had. I said all along, I said, this kid's not going to make it. He's way, way, way too small. I mean, 2 years in, he's got 1,376 yards, guys. That's pretty damn impressive, but he's had injuries both seasons. And you got to expect at his height. What's his 160, 165. So not as bad as Travis Hunter, who was what I think you were talking about when we talked about the weight part there for him. But yeah, like I said, size is underrated part of being a wide receiver. Jay says Sanders' highlight tape is all nasty wide receiver skills by Hunter. I don't disagree. I wouldn't say I will disagree all. I hate to give it to one player. But I definitely think Hunter made Sanders look very good. And I saw a lot of yak yard. And it wasn't just Hunter. I should specify that as well. Like, they got a couple of receivers there that did pretty good things there in Colorado. So, yeah, definitely the wide receivers were a help to Sanders in Colorado. Definitely were. He also says they need to stop talking about him playing both ways. Ridiculous at 180 pounds. Agreed. Like I said, I don't think he can play corner because of that, quite frankly. I think he's too small. I think he needs to get a little bit of weight. I'm not saying a ton, maybe like 10, 15 pounds. But good luck being a guy who's going to ever press a receiver at 180 pounds. And that's why I'm saying, if you want to put him in nickel dime situations, whatever. I got no problem with that. But to think he's going to be a stud at the corner position, I think is a little crazy. Vinny says, what's going on? What's up, Vinny? And then Jace is kind of like the Giants' Steve Smith, nothing outstanding, but can consistently move the sticks. Steve Smith. He was a fun player to watch back in the day, that's for damn sure. All right, let's get into the second half here of our top 10 wide receivers. So next up, we got Jaden Higgins, Ohio State. Iowa State. Iowa State. 6'4", 215 pounds. Went to high school in Palmetto Bay, Florida here. In 23, 983 yards, 6 touchdowns, 13 games, 87 catches, 1,183 yards, 9 touchdowns, and a 90.3 PFF rating. Second all Big 12 he's an interesting guy. Like I like a lot of what I see on tape with him. And there's a lot I don't like as well. Great size, quick release in the line, great hands, great at finding holes in zone coverage there, wins contested catches. What he doesn't have is the speed part. And that's what I don't like when I see that there. He's a little slower play speed wise. Again, I don't care about combine 40 times and all that kind of stuff. I care about how he looks in the field. And he doesn't have home run speed. He does have trouble creating separation at times. And again, he's playing at Iowa State. Not playing SEC, not playing consistently, top end talent. Not that anybody's consistently, but I just look at a kid like that and go, he's that kid who tries hard. That's what he is on the field. He's the one who tries really hard. Now, is that going to be good enough for him to succeed in the NFL? It's possible. I won't say it's impossible at all. Got plenty of people that succeed in the NFL, like Adam Thielen type, strictly based on desire to beat the other guy, strictly based on, the fundamentals of being a wide receiver. And that's what Higgins is. And I think if you can get him to be like your third, fourth wide receiver to start, and understand point blank what he is. A simple possession style receiver is going to get open, catch the ball, go down to the ground, not get you in the yak, not get you the home run speed, the big 80-yard touchdown. He's going to be a decent player on the team. And then you just see if you can develop him from there. But that's the nice thing is he's going to have a role on your team if you have a need there. It's not a waste of a pick. It's a guy you can get day 2. Like I said, you're going to have as your third, fourth receiver at that point. That you're going to see if you can develop into a starter down the road. If you're a team that's plotting, okay, so-and-so is a wide receiver in 2 years. What can we do? Well, this is a guy you can draft now and see if you can develop him, take on someone's role in a couple of years as a starter. It's the right way to do it like that. Give him a chance to develop and then put him in there. So, like I said, day 2 pick, and I think Higgins is going to be a decent player here. All right, next up, Jalen Knoll out of Iowa State as well. We got 2 here. Oh, yes, Iowa State coming in strong. Who would have thought? So you got 5'11", 200 pounds, 22 years old. And talking about a different style of player entirely than what we just talked about in his teammate. So first year in, 21, 269 yards, 22, 572, 3 touchdowns, 23, 820 yards, 7 touchdowns, second team all Big 12. This past season, 24, 14 games, 80 catches, 1,194 yards, 8 touchdowns. He was the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Year. Returns kicks, returns punts, has a few special teams tackles as well. First team all Big 12. Impressive year. Like I said, it's nice to have 2 back-to-back from the same school at Iowa State. He's a first team, like I said, all Big 12. And like I said, had a good year as a receiver. But I think what he's better suited for, personally, is I think you're going to see him starting off at least as a backup wide receiver that produces on special teams that you try to develop. And he's a playmaker. He's really, really fast. He's good at shaking off contact. He's a great route runner. Here's the problem, and this is why I don't think he's going to be as solid a career as a guy like Higgins is because of the fact that his catch radius isn't great. He's had trouble tracking the ball in the air a few times this season. He needs time to polish, I think, based on what I see him as far as route running there. I said, great route runner, but he's got a couple of runs that you look at where he went, and it's like you did it based on paper instead of improvising, if that makes sense. I said, he's got some potential. I'm not as sold on him as I am on Higgins, his teammate there. I think he has the potential to do something in this league. I don't think he'll be a bust necessarily, but I don't think he's ever going to develop into a full-time starter. But if you need a guy that's going to provide something at special teams, returning kicks, catch a couple balls a game, Knoll's your guy. That's where he's going to be. I do think someone's going to pick him as a day 2 pick. I don't think he's necessarily going to be worth it if you take him in the second round. I think he's probably more worthy of a third round, but somebody might like the speed. Speed is a rough thing because you can't create it. Same as you can't create size. We talked about that earlier. You can't make speed. You got it or you don't. And there are teams that just want speed sometimes. So I look at what's going on there in Iowa State. Congrats to them. Two, the better wide receivers in this draft. Not often you hear that from a smaller school like that, but like I said, Higgins definitely over Knoll, if you ask me. All right, next up, we got a kid not from Iowa State, I promise. You got Trey Harris, Ole Miss. You'll talk all the draft here, especially the Giants fan, just because of the fact that we're looking at quarterbacks. Jackson Dart. Before we even start looking at wide receivers, there's a kid who really came to the forefront watching this passing offense here, and that's Trey Harris. 6'3", 210 pounds, 23 years old, from Lafayette, Louisiana. Started off at Louisiana Tech, had 20 yards in 2020, 562 and 4 touchdowns in 21, 935 and 10 touchdowns in 22. Was ranked first team All-Conference USA, by the way, that year. Then goes off to Ole Miss, 985 yards, 8 touchdowns in 23. 24, keep in mind, injured season because he had only 8 games, 60 catches, 1,030 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 89.7 PFF. First team All SEC. Really good. Strong, can fight off corners, great at contested catches, willing to block, but he's not a tackle breaker. He's had a lot of injuries. That's the biggest thing. Honestly, he could be like a guy that you say, okay, it's the day 2, it's the early day 2, like second round, maybe even someone sneaks in the first round to get him talent wise. The injuries just that he's had, like I said, 8 games this year only. The injuries are crushing him as far as his draft stock. And again, we talked about all the time the medicals, things like we can't see. Rob and I have told you guys plenty of times, we can't see medical. We have to guess. Assuming everything's okay with his medical, then he's a guy you might take a chance on because of that. Now, I will say this. When you look at his stats, you're going to look at stats and go, oh, what the hell? That's not so bad. You only missed a little bit of time here and there. He's had a lot of games he's popped out of. And you have to look at that part of it as well. Like he had, like, let's say, for example, and I don't have my list of the exact games, but he had 12 games in 23. I'll give you that for a second. No catches one week, 1 catch another, 2 catches another 2 catches. So he had 1, 2, 3, 4 games. He had 4 catches. Or 5 catches, sorry. That's the kind of things that he's had. But then, like, he went off on against Texas A&M that year and had 11 catches for 213 yards. It's all how healthy he is those particular games. He's that guy who's always tries to play through them, but has had nagging injuries that have kind of held him back. So again, he's not the guy you sit there go, oh, he did 5 games this year and 4 games that year. He's the guy who tries to play through it, and you can tell it's clearly affecting him. He's the guy who has to come out of parts of games because he gets hurt halfway through the game and then just fights his way back on. And I love that scrappiness. Don't get me wrong. I love that scrappiness. But again, you got to stay healthy. If you can't play, there's an issue. So I think he's going to go in the 3rd round because of that. I really do. But I'm telling you right now, if he can beat that injury bug and stay healthy, this is a kid that point blank could be a steal in this draft. I won't call him one of my steals in this draft because of the fact that I can't trust without knowing the medicals and seeing the file there and seeing what's going on with it there. But if he's fully healthy and you're just sitting here going, you know what, it's round 3, I still need a wide receiver. Who do I like? And you're desperate for a guy that could boom for you. If he's healthy, I have no doubt he's going to be a really good player. I just doubt if he's going to be healthy. So take a shot if you need to take a shot. A team like Kansas City, for example, take your shot if you need to take your shot. So, all right. Next up, we got a couple more, and that's it here. We got Jalen Royals out of Utah State. Not often you hear about Utah State in the NFL draft, that's for sure. You do get the occasional, though. I mean, for example, Jordan Love went to school at Utah State. So, it does happen. 6 foot even, 205 pounds, 22 years old, went to high school at Hillgrove High School in Powder Springs, Georgia, which I got to be honest with you guys. I go to Georgia all the time. I got a lot of family up there. I had never heard of Powder Springs before. I had to look it up. It's apparently just to the west of Atlanta, near where the Six Flags Over Georgia is, that neck of the woods. Started off his college career at Georgia Military College. In 2021, he had 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then transfers over to Utah State. Has 0 yards his first season, and then turns it on. 23, 1,080 yards, 15 touchdowns, first team All Mountain West. This past year, 55 catches, 834 yards, 6 touchdowns, a 79.6 PFF grade. That's best for second team All Mountain West there. So back-to-back good years here. It's dynamic. Like watching this kid's tape is fun. Good yak, home run speed, quick acceleration. What he does have is trouble with press corners, trouble with contested catches. And that's where you're going to run into. If you have let's say a Wan'Dale Robinson kind of role, I'm going to say it that way since we're Giants fans here. A lot of us that are watching right now, unless some of you draft people and that's it, but welcome if you are. If you have a job like that on your roster, like, hey, you're the guy that does the quick routes, and we're just hoping you can turn it up the field and take it for 80 yards. This is your guy. If you're someone that says, I need someone to just, manhandle a guy, run up the field and just create separation and, go for a contested catch in the end zone, this is not your guy. You have to go ahead and put the square peg in the square hole. But if you need that, this is a good guy to look at there. Now, this is the guy you have to look at medical, though, on. He had a season-ending foot injury in October. Foot injuries for receivers always scare me. Foot injuries in general scare me because you're on your feet 24/7, obviously. But as a wide receiver, you're stepping off nonstop every single time you step there. It's something that you got to be careful on there. So, we've talked about it before with Abdul Carter, the great edge rusher out of Penn State, that his stress reaction, his foot scared the bejesus out of me, where I wouldn't want to pick him so high. And everybody else keeps to be glossing over that. Foot injuries are nothing to mess with. So you really want to take a look at the medicals on him. But if you need a speedy little receiver and you are okay with his medicals, Jalen Royals got some potential there. All right, one last guy, and it's Zach Besh of TCU. 6'2", 215 pounds, 22 years old. Originally went to LSU in 2021, 489 yards, 3 touchdowns. In 22, 200 yards even and a touchdown. And then goes to Texas Christian, also known as TCU. In 23, 146 yards. This past year, though, this is when he became the beast. 12 games, 62 catches, 1,034 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 83 even PFF grade. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If I got to take somebody who was slow to develop, if I got to take somebody slow to show, abilities on the field, I want to take him from a school that tends to know what they're doing at his position. So the fact that Besh didn't succeed at LSU and then went to TCU and succeeded, I have no problem with that. Here's the biggest issue I have. Didn't produce jack for them last year. 23, 146 yards. My other issue, TCU wide receivers tend to flop horrendously in the NFL. We've talked about plenty of teams like LSU, Ohio State that produce great wide receivers year in, year out. TCU produces bad wide receivers year in, year out. I don't make the rules, guys. I just follow them. That's just what they do. So, but he's got some things you got to like when you watch the film. He's strong. He's got good hands. He runs great routes. He's great at contested catches. He is the guy that does lack home run threat, though, and isn't explosive. But when I'm looking at a guy from a historically bad wide receiver college with only 1 year of production, I got to say rounds 3, rounds 4. And honestly, if I'm in a position where I need a wide receiver, and he's not a guy I'm just taking a shot and see what happens, and I need a wide receiver, this is not the guy. I would not be interested personally because there's a lot of risk involved. And that's the big thing and I hate to say it like that. It's kind of weird because how do you go from being one of the best wide receiver colleges in the country, if not the best, all the kids that come out of LSU, to go to one of the worst? Yeah. It's Jesus Quentin Johnston. Exactly. Look at Jalen Reckner. It's like you've had so many different ones that just do not pan out. It's like I said, it's guys that come out that I swear people think will, be great. Look at Turpin on the Cowboys. Didn't pan out. I mean, it's just what they do. I can't think of one that has. Jalen Reagor's at least come up with at least a good career as a backup wide receiver. But this kid was a first round talent. He's supposed to be an amazing receiver. So yeah, I avoid any wide receivers from TCU point blank. So, but I want to include him on the list, and I'm trying to take out the TCU part for the list. But as a general manager, I'm crossing him right off the list for that reason. Because TCU scares the bejesus out of me. And I got to say, on a side note, I will root for this kid like you would not believe, because he actually lost his brother at the shooting in New Orleans there on New Year's. So, that's rough. That's something you never wanted, especially that young, to lose someone that close to you there. But like I said, I got to take that out of my mind when I'm evaluating. And the TCU thing is just something I can't get past. So, all right, guys, that's our top 10. We will be back Wednesday, and we'll hit a couple more receivers here. So I think there's probably a few more, probably 5 more I want to hit on there, and then from there we'll go on to probably some centers. We start breaking down into our offensive line talk here. We got a couple more comments though, so let's get into that there. Let's see here. Jay says, is Ted McMillan a better prospect than Rome Odunze? No. Rome Odunze is better. It's funny you mentioned that because I was just thinking actually before about that. The wide receivers this year are very much like the quarterbacks this year. You're looking at guys who are not as good as the top guys last year, but they're still decent players. But I got to say, I don't think Ted McMillan is going to even be a top 10 pick at all if he was out last year. And I'm saying this version of him. You got guys that not just Odunze was better, but obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. is a better prospect. Malik Neighbors is a better prospect than him. I would put him more in prospect-wise with Brian Thomas when he was coming out of LSU. Neighbors' teammate, who obviously had a very good rookie year. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe Tet has an amazing rookie year as well. But, again, that's the kind of prospect I'd put him at. Andre says, yo, Drew, how are you? Our defense is in Madden is a beast. It's so satisfying. Sacked any times. All righty. Jason's curious how DJ does for the Colts. It's a fair comp. He beats out Richardson. Rooting for him, to be honest. Colts will be my second favorite team in 2025. Listen, I will always root for that kid. Again, not a great quarterback, but a damn good person by all accounts. And again, never talk trash about the Giants when you have plenty of opportunities. I will always respect the man for that. I won't hate him for the money. I know most people hate him because he took the money. Who cares? Who wouldn't take the money? Are you turning down money? I'm taking money. Jay says those dudes who are injured in college all the time are not going to all of a sudden be healthy playing against grown-ass men. Damn straight. Damn straight. Jay says, to be honest, it sounds stupid, but I believe in BSEC best SEC player available. Yeah, I mean, I can see why you would say that best available. I mean, it's SEC is just full of good players. It's funny you get backups and they sometimes go into the NFL. There are backups in Alabama and Georgia. It's crazy. And Jesus, thanks for the show. Thank you for watching in there. Appreciate it. All right, we'll be back again for you guys Wednesday night. Like I said, complete the rest of the wide receivers and talk a little bit of centers as well. As always, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X/Twitter, and of course, if Winnie Rob was here to agree, but his favorite, my LinkedIn profile. And of course, as always, we're available the next day on all the audio podcast platforms as well. It's Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all the big ones there. So if you haven't already, do me a favor again, please hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share button, tell a friend about the show. We'll see you guys again Wednesday. And as always, Giant fans, go G-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please.